Well, hello there. Before we start, I want to start today's session by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land upon which this festival is being presented. And I also pay respect to Australia's First Nations, who we recognise as the first scientists and custodians of the lands and environments and all animate and inanimate things within it. We acknowledge the important their legacy passed from one generation to the next for over 50,000 years has on caring for Mother Earth and for contemporary scientific conversations. I acknowledge the deep and timeless relationship between country and Aboriginal peoples and Torres Strait Islanders, and also pay respect to the elders of the community, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, who are here with us today. And I also paid huge respect and g'day to you for coming along to World Science Festival Brisbane 2021! Woo! My name is Bernie Hobbs, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm a bit of a nerd and a bit of a fan of science. Have we got any other science fans here today? Oh, yeah. And do you know where else we've got science fans? We've got science fans dialing in and watching our whole show being live streamed. Some from around Australia, we say g'day to them. G'day. And guess what? We've even got kids. We've got kids at school in China watching us as well. So we're going to say ni hao. Ni hao. All right, now you are in for a treat today. Is anyone a fan of, I can't remember, what are these things called? That's right, I knew it was going to come to me. What about this? What's that? Crocodile. Ooh. Oh, you kids are geniuses. You know all your science. And any idea what this would be if you put a skin suit? All right. Today, we're going to be looking at the story of life here on our planet Earth. I mean, you knew it was called Earth, right? Yeah, okay, no spoilers, all right. So, does anyone know how long we've had life on planet Earth? Yes? Yeah? 4.1 billion years. We've definitely had it for that long. We've actually had it for a tiny bit longer, but you are so damn close, yes? So close, a little bit lower. This is like The Price is Right. Bit higher, bit higher. Oh, so close, so close. 4 point. Oh, so close. 4 point. About 4.5 billion years, but really no one knows the exact answer, so I don't know why I was being so tough on you. You're all so close to the answer there. So what we've got this afternoon is 3 scientists, not just nerds like me, 3 actual scientists who spend their days researching and learning more about our world and life on it, and they're going to talk to us about how life went from tiny little molecules 4.5 billion years ago, right the way through, through all these different stages. And what's that? Not a chameleon, a koala, through all these crazy different stages, right up, ending at these people, the humans like us. So I want to introduce you to these 3 scientists, so I want you to be really friendly and welcoming to them. So our first scientist is going to be looking at how life really got a kick-off, how it got started, and it got started from molecules, okay? So do you know any molecules? What are they? Any names?
They're tiny things.
They are tiny things, and we're going to hear all about them. Any names of molecules? Paul. There is probably a molecule called Paul somewhere. All right, let's bring out our first guest, our first speaker, Professor Andrew Smith, who's a biochemist, yeah. Andrew's from Griffith University, and he's a total expert on molecules. If you've got any questions about molecules, you want to know anything about them, well, especially the molecules in living things, Andrew is your main man. So, Andrew, you're going to cover from the first moment that life began for the first 2.4 billion years.
That's right, in about 15 minutes.
In about 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes. So 2.5 billion years in 12 to 15 minutes. Are you able to keep up? Totally, you are. You're totally able to keep up. So we'll hear from Andrew in just a minute. Thanks heaps, Andrew. So Andrew's going to be talking a lot about molecules and about the early cells that got started and that sort of thing. Now, our second speaker, have you had to do a lot of stuff on Zoom in the last year? I am so sick of Zoom. Who's sick of Zoom? Oh my God. All right, well, unfortunately, our second speaker, he hasn't got COVID. He's not in lockdown. Well, he is in lockdown, but not because of COVID. He got trapped by the floods in New South Wales. This brave paleontologist who's out there trying to learn about our world for us got stuck at a cottage at the beach. He can't even go in the surf because it's so dangerous. Our next speaker is Associate Professor Julian Lewis. He's also from Griffith Uni. That's Julian. You've got to send lots of love because he's stuck in a little cabin at the beach. Poor Julian. Oh, we're getting a lot of love from the kids here, Julian. So Julian is a paleontologist. Have you ever heard of Indiana Jones? I love that he's still a thing because old people like me know about Indiana Jones. So Julian is kind of like Indiana Jones but sciencier, and he knows all about all this side of the table, all the things, all the skeletons, all the... What kind of dinosaur is that, Julian?
That's a Rhedosaurus.
That one is a Rheosaurus. Does anyone know what these are? Yes? Not Tyrannosaurus. It would be a very small Tyrannosaurus Rex. Anyone else? I'm not sure I've heard of that dinosaur called but I'm not an expert. I think you'll find that dinosaur is called, do you know, Julian?
Metabolism.
Metabolism from Queensland.
Well, this is from Queensland.
Hello, it's our very own dinosaur here. But anyway, so Julian's going to be joining us via Skype, so he's going to get you involved in dinosaur-y sort of stuff and agey sort of stuff. And then, so that's bringing... We've got a whole lot of life, like the first half of life on Earth is going to be covered by Andrew, and then Julian is going to cover the next, from 2.4 billion years ago to about 150,000 years ago. And our final speaker today is Dr. Sally Wassell. I think I just got that wrong, I beg your pardon, Dr. Sally Wassef. Dr. Sally Wassef. Now, Sally is, she works with DNA, that molecule we were looking at before. So she's interested in evolution, but by looking at DNA and genes. And get this, okay, this is my favourite fact about Sally. So you're from Egypt. What's in Egypt? What things are in Egypt? Yell it out. Pyramids and mummies. We'll get a load of this. Guess which one of us up here on stage has extracted ancient DNA from mummies? How cool is that? She's got DNA out of mummies, like thousands of years old. It's pretty impressive stuff. She's not going to be bragging about mummy DNA this afternoon, though, but she is going to be working with a couple of you to extract some DNA yourself. So I know, it's pretty excitement stuff. All right, that's enough of me banging on up the front. Take a seat, Sally, and I'll ask Andrew to come back up. So Andrew's going to talk to us about how life on Earth, what it did for its first 2.5 billion years. So please give a warm welcome for Professor Andrew Smith.
Thank you. Okay, so look, a warm welcome this morning or this afternoon. Who recognises what that is? Earth. Do you recognise what this is? No. That is the Earth 4.5 billion years ago. Wow. So that is the beautiful blue-green planet that we live on, that you live on, located on the western spiral arm of the galaxy. If we travel back in time 4.5 billion years ago, it does not look the same. It's a fiery, hot, with a dense, poisonous atmosphere that has just accreted from a big solar disk around the sun. There is no life on this planet, and it's a bit like hell. It's an inferno. So let's track forward a little bit. Let's come forward to about 3.5 billion years. So if you went down to the beach on that hot planet Earth 3.5 billion years ago, and you put a deck chair up on the beach, and you stared out across the sea, it wouldn't look quite the same. The sea would be acidic, like acid. The clouds would be yellow because they're tinged with sulfur. The atmosphere wouldn't be oxygen and nitrogen like it is today. It would have methane, ammonia, carbon dioxide, and water. It'd be a little bit more like perhaps Venus is now. If you took a breath, that would be the end of you. Pretty poisonous. So, how is it that fiery, horrible inferno has become this beautiful blue-green planet that we live on? The only reason it's done that is because of life. Life has changed Earth from this to what we see today. That didn't happen quickly. So let's go through a few of the key steps that we think science and archaeology tell us happened. So around about 2.2 billion years ago, early living systems that were largely simple bugs that lived in the sea started to develop a different biochemical trick. They learned how to split water into oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen they assimilated and built into their bodies to make carbohydrates and lipids and fats, the sort of thing you eat for dinner. So they built their bodies from that, and they threw out as the waste product the oxygen. That oxygen was like a huge pollution event to those simple bugs that lived in the sea. And when they saw it, it was like a metabolic poison to them. 95% of them died because oxygen is poisonous to most prokaryotes. If you want to kill bugs in your home, you tend to use bleach or hydrogen peroxide or something like that. Very similar situation. That oxygen was lethal to those early bugs. We call them prokaryotes. But a small number of them survived and learnt how to use that oxygen. Because although that oxygen is poisonous to them, it does have a huge advantage as well. If you can use it as 1/2 of an electrochemical battery, you can use it to make a lot of energy. And the one thing you need if you're going to be a complex organism is energy. You, as you sit in your seat, are making about 40 watts of power. You know, these lights are probably a couple of kilowatts, but each of you is making about 40 watts. You're making that from the stored carbohydrates that you had for breakfast, the fats, the other foods that you've stored, and you're probably getting hungry now at lunchtime and you need some more.
Don't tell them they're hungry. That's never a good idea.
So that first great extinction event, as the oxygen was produced, caused those simple bugs to curl up and die. A small number of them learned how to use it. Next slide, please. And they prospered. Those bugs that were able to use oxygen became the progenitors of the organisms that we have today on planet Earth. And if we take one of your cells, don't need anyone to give me your cells, I'm just going to show you a picture of them. If we had one of your cells and we cut it down the middle and we made it a lot bigger and opened it up, so it's a bit like opening the bonnet of your car on the front of the car and looking at the motor so you can see all the bits inside, what you would see is a nucleus which stores all the information to make the cell work, chemically encoded in this beautiful antiparallel duplex DNA molecule. It's like a chemical store. It's a bit like the program on a hard drive of a computer. So that's all in there. Around out on the outside, you see this factory that makes the proteins, the things that your skin is made of, the keratin, and all the other biological molecules that you need to make your cells alive. And in addition, you have these little things, these little organelles. They have a funny name. They're called mitochondria. It's thought that those mitochondria were once simple bugs available in that primordial sea, and that by associating with higher cells, they brought to them the ability to make much more energy from the oxygen. So they are, you can think of them as little electrochemical batteries. And your cells have about somewhere between 50 and 100 of those mitochondria per cell, and it's responsible for the production of most of your energy. And these little factories here actually take the information from the nucleus. It comes out in a short-term a short-term chemical form called an RNA molecule. Don't worry about that. It's like just a messenger, really. And that comes out into the factory, and it makes the proteins, these things, that essentially keep you running. It's like all the bits in the motor that keep you running and functioning. It's called your metabolism, and that needs a whole network of these to keep it running. Next slide, please. So that's how you are now. In order to get there, we had to make the oxygen. And some of those early living systems, those cyanobacteria, they're called, these early these early algae, learned how to turn water into oxygen. And the oxygen is a byproduct. The hydrogen that they make, they use to build themselves up. Nowadays, we're really interested in that chemistry because it's really fundamental to the planet. It's how the whole plant kingdom survives. And we're trying to learn how to mimic that chemistry to make clean fuels, to make hydrogen from water using sunlight. So biology can teach us how to do those chemical tricks. So once these cyanobacteria got going and oxygen levels, about 2.2 billion, began to come up, that kicked off the process of terraforming Earth. It started the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, and the sulfur cycle, the things that actually sustain the level of biodiversity that we see in our rainforests and our soils and our gardens. All that started with those key cycles, initiated by the production of that oxygen. Next slide, please. So those early organisms, they learned how to use that oxygen, and they could do it because they developed a little engine, if you like, a big enzyme that's able to take that oxygen and use it as one half of an electrochemical battery. And that was a key bit of technology that biology developed because, again, it released the ability to use oxygen as a big source of energy. It's rather a complex-looking thing. You can just think of it really as a complex little motor that is able to allow oxygen to be burnt safely. And that chemistry goes on inside that mitochondria, that little electrochemical battery that is within your cells. Now, with the advent of that oxygen, not only could it be used for energy, but it means you can do some new chemistries. You can actually make more complex molecules. You can make more complex aromatic molecules. So the molecules needed to help a tree stand up, lignocellulose, waterproofing molecules, they all need some oxygen available in order to be able to synthesize and make them biochemically. So oxygen is really important in allowing that more complex metabolism and evolution to proceed. Next slide, please. But oxygen carries with it a real disadvantage as well. We all need it to live. We need it for respiration. It sustains our production of energy. But oxygen is also a rather naughty little molecule. It's very easy to reduce it by one electron, in which case it turns into a rather nasty toxic poison called a hydroxyl radical. Don't worry about that. You can just call it a radical. And these radicals are really quite bad for us. They can, for example, mutate our DNA. They can damage our proteins. In some ways, production of radicals like this are probably the reason that we age and the reason that sometimes we get diseases like cancer. So while we live with oxygen and we benefit from the energy that utilizing oxygen allows, we suffer the disadvantage of some nasty chemistry that oxygen also causes in our bodies. We combat that. We've learned how to combat a lot of it. We have enzymes that take these little poisonous radicals away. And we've developed ways of controlling that chemistry using a pigment called heme, the same pigment that gives your blood its red color, to control that chemistry and minimize the radicals. But eventually, they do get you in the end. Anyway, that's a story of how oxygen has transformed Earth, how it still controls a lot of our biology. Okay.
Thanks, Andrew. How scary did old Earth look 4.5 billion years ago? It did look like hell, all fiery and poisonous. And now we learn that oxygen is responsible for not only all of life, but that it's also got a bit of a danger, and it can the radical forms of oxygen can attack us and make us age. Well, that's the first 2.4 billion years of the story of life here on Earth. Now, all we've done really is look at molecules and a few cells. It took a very long time for life to kick off on Earth. Now we're going to go to Julian, and we're going to look at what happened from 2.4 billion years ago to now. So that's the time when all this gear got started. And because, say hello to Julian again.
Hello.
Hi, Julian. So because poor Julian is trapped up there and he can't point at things, I'm going to be his human pointer. So when he wants to point at something on the stage or get some of you up on stage, I'll be doing that. So over to you, Julian. I am your laser pointer.
Thank you very much, Bertie. It's great to be here. Now, 2.4 billion is a very difficult number to get your head around. So we're going to do a little bit of an exercise to try to come across what 2.4 billion looks like. So, Bernie, if we're going to consider the entire length of the stage, the history of the Earth, from the moment it was created right up until the present day. Now, if you can get a volunteer, we're going to need to get someone that's nice and patient and willing to come up on stage. So maybe someone would be able to
Okay, there'll be plenty of chances to volunteer, but I need someone nice and patient who can spend a long time on stage. Can you do it? Because you had your hand up first. All right. Up. You'll just have to come up the stairs here. Okay, now, this person is representing 2.4 billion years ago. And what's your name?
My name's Felix.
Felix. So Felix is here. Say good day to Felix.
G'day, Felix.
Felix is 2.4 billion years old. No, that's not right. Felix is standing in a spot 2.4 billion years ago. So stay there, Felix. Oh, I'm not allowed. Sorry, COVID.
No, so we're going to need Felix in the middle of the stage, approximately.
Oh, okay. Oh, because we're going right from the start of life.
Right
okay.
from the start of the Earth. Yep.
Right from the start of life. Is Felix allowed to ride the crocodile? No, I didn't think so. I didn't think so. We'll just step back a bit. Okay, so here. This is the very beginning. This is where Andrew was talking about. So this is how long ago? Oh, sorry. No, this is 4.5 billion years ago. So those first 2.4 billion years, that's when we got those molecules and some simple cells. And now Julian's going to take us across from here. Over to you, Julian.
Okay, so Felix, where you are now, that's 2.4 billion years. So this is the point where, as Andrew said, we get the first single-celled organisms. So these are things like germs and other, just one cell is the entire creature. And the creatures start to convert oxygen and carbon dioxide into, water and carbon dioxide into oxygen. So we're getting a lot of oxygen going into the atmosphere. And the first thing that oxygen reacts to is iron. Now, Bernie, does anybody in the audience know what happens when oxygen comes into contact with iron? What does it form?
What happens when oxygen meets iron? Just yell it out. What the heck? Someone said iron oxide. I think we've got some chemists down here. Someone else said rust, which is what we usually call it. Wow,
That's
legends,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's right, iron oxide, so rust. So the first thing that the oxygen reacted with was all the iron, and it formed rust. So it formed these iron oxide minerals. And you can actually see these minerals. If you ever go out to Western Australia, a region called the Pilbara, you'll see these banded formations full of deep red, rusty-looking stone. And that is the evidence of the first oxygen that's going into the atmosphere.
So this is at Felix. The best we've got for fossil evidence of life is some stripes of red in rocks in Western Australia. Thanks, Julian. When do we get to the dinosaurs?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, the next thing that happens, once there's no more rust to be made, once all of the iron is used up, the oxygen starts attacking something called methane. Now, methane is a greenhouse gas. In other words, it helps keep the planet warm. So it acts like a giant blanket around the Earth. Now, if you imagine you take that blanket off the Earth, it's going to start to get cold. It gets really cold. It gets so cold, in fact, that almost of the entirety of the Earth freezes over into something that we call Snowball Earth.
Wow.
There we go. We have a picture there of the Snowball Earth. So basically, all of the water on the planet is frozen up into ice and snow. All the continents are covered by ice and snow. And there's only a few little areas where life survives. One of those little areas is probably in some of the deep, deep undersea volcanoes. And also, perhaps on the surface, there might be tiny little pools of water that still harbour life.
But still no dinosaurs.
Still no dinosaurs. Now, once the Earth starts to warm up again, the ice goes away, and these organisms start to proliferate again. And the Earth goes through several cycles of Snowball Earth and normal Earth. And these cycles essentially help create multicellular life. So these are complex organisms. So we're going to go to our next point in time now, Bernie. So we're going to need another audience member.
We need another volunteer. Come on, you, up here in the second row. Yep, come on. Yeah, no, you. Yeah, brown hair, you. That's it. Okay, so we're starting. Felix is how long ago, kids? 2.4 billion years ago. It's a very long time ago. And now the snowballs, around the front, you're right, all the way around to the stairs here. But safely run. That's a very safe run. I've never seen anyone run safer than that. And so where is Snowball Earth? Is it very close to Felix? Is it a long way away? Close to Felix. And what's your name?
Where Felix is.
Brooke, do you reckon you can be a big snowball? Yeah, okay, show us your big snowball, Brooke. Okay, all right, here's Brooke as a big snowball, but she's just near Felix because you're 2.4 billion years ago. Okay, so Felix, you're the time marker. You're the beginning of life getting serious here on Earth. And Brooke is the snowball. And back over to you, Julian.
Well, we're going to need another volunteer if we could.
Okay. All right. Yes. So as soon as I point to you, look, one from your school, one from your school, one from your school, one from your school, and we need 6 people. So come on over. Over to the stairs here. Quick, sticks. Oh, someone from up the back, of course. Quick, someone from your school. Yes, jumpy girl. Okay, good job. Come on over here. So we're marking some time. Just watch out for the crocodile. They're very expensive and hard to catch. Come on. I'll bring you over in a sec. Quick sticks. Okay, Julian, we've got 4. We need one more, don't we?
Yes, we will need one more. So we need the first person. We'll need to go basically 4/5 of the way between Felix and the end of the stage.
Okay, so you are going to be coming. What's your name? Shaniqua, where are you from? Beenleigh State Primary School. I can read it on your shirt. Okay, so now check this out. Shaniqua, I don't know how to break this news to you, but you are a catastrophe on Earth. You are an extinction event, okay? So it's nothing personal, Shaniqua, but you might be like a deadly and lethal thing, okay? So tell us if we're in the right spot here now, Julian, about here?
Yeah, that's right, about there. And then everybody else spaced out evenly between Shaniqua and the end of the stage.
Okay, so if everyone else can come down here, not you, Felix, and not you, Brooke, you're still the beginning of this bit. Come on. So we're just trying to see how long it took for things to get going. After Shaniqua, just line up, boom, 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 not touching. Okay, now I don't know how to break it to each of you, but Julian, what do each of these kids represent?
So each of these kids are going to represent a mass extinction event.
You
So these
are the
extin-
forces of destruction, every one of you.
That's right. You turn over, almost all life on Earth becomes extinct at each of these different points in time. But before we get to the mass extinctions, we actually have to have the things that become extinct. And so the first evidence that we have of complex organisms is around about 500 million years ago. And essentially what we have are four different worlds that occur from 500 million years ago. So a little bit like that movie Jurassic World, but many hundreds of millions of years before the dinosaurs. And the first world that we come to is something called tube worm. So tube world is, as the name suggests, a time when the whole of the Earth was basically dominated by worms and tube-like organisms.
Worm Earth, that sounds like great fun. What was the other world? The next
Okay,
one?
so second world after tube world is a world called sclerite world. Now, sclerites are basically all of the tiny little bits of armor that you find on insects and crustaceans and things like that. So all the tiny little bits of armor get preserved in sandy deposits. So if you looked at sand underneath the microscope, you would actually find that it's not made up of tiny rocks. It's mostly made up of tiny little bits of shells, of things like urchins and crabs and all those tiny little bits. And that's when you first start to see these things is during sclerite world.
Okay, so let's just get this straight. Right over on the far end of the stage, that was when Earth was a giant fireball. It took 2.4 billion years for anything interesting to happen, no offence, Andrew, apart from a whole lot of chemistry. And then we got doomed by a snowball, lucky nothing was alive. And then here we've got so far, we've got worm world, we've got dead insect dandruff world. What else have you got, Julian? It's not sounding very appetising.
Okay, well, then we've got Shellfish World. So things are starting to get a little bit more interesting. Shellfish World. So this is where you start to see shellfish and crabs and sea urchins. And then after that, we have Trilobite World.
Trilobite
Does anybody know
world.
what Trilobite is?
Trilobite world. That's more
Bernie,
like
does anybody know what trilobites are?
Does anyone know what trilobites are? They're those things, correct, yeah.
Yeah, those things, that's right. Yep. And so we have Trilobite World. And then we start to see the beginnings of animals with a spine. So if you reach around to your back, you'll see that you have hard backbone.
Can you
and
feel it?
inside the backbone is the spine. And the first animals with spines arose during this time, during Trilobite World. Eventually, what happens is that the small animals with a spine, they look like worms. And worms have actually evolved into something known as jawless fish. And then the jawless fish turned into jawed fish. And then the jawed fish evolved into amphibians. So amphibians are things that can live on both land and in the sea. And then you have the first terrestrial animals. These are the things that they look a little bit like reptiles, but they lay eggs. And the reptiles split into two main groups. Now, the first of those groups are known as Sauropsids. Now, does anybody know, can anybody give an example of a sauropsid? I'll give you a hint. Some of them are behind Bernie.
Does anyone know an example of a sauropsid? Just yell it out. Dinosaurs, but what particular
Dinosaur,
kind?
yeah, 100%. That's excellent. Yeah, dinosaurs. But we've also got dinosaurs, we've got birds, we've got turtles, we've got crocodiles. All of the reptiles basically come around about this time.
So this is this right up near Shikana? Shaniqua,
yeah,
sorry.
That's right. Very close to Shaniqua. Exactly right. And then the other organisms that come along are things called Cyanodonts. Now, I think we have a slide of a Cyanodont.
Oh, that is the cutest lizard ever.
So this is a reptile, but it starts to look a little bit more like mammals. And the things that change are, first of all, it starts to develop a bony palate. Now, if you use your tongue and strike the roof of your mouth, you'll notice that it's very hard. So there's actually a bony plate in there, and that bony plate allows you to breathe through your nose while you're chewing, but it also allows you to crush food up against the palate of against the roof of your mouth. The other thing that starts to happen is the teeth of these organisms start to differentiate. So if you have a look at that crocodile, if you look at the jaw of the crocodile, you'll notice that all of its teeth should be the same.
They all look like that.
They all look the same. But
I have to say, it didn't take very good care of its teeth. It's missing quite a few, but you know,
fair
it's
enough.
old.
So if you feel the front of your teeth versus the back of your teeth, you'll find that they're very, very different. So the front ones are very slicey teeth and the back ones are very broad, crushy teeth. So these are some of the changes that occurs. And so these sort of changes are starting to occur around about the time, I'm not sure your name, but the little girl in the green dress.
We're just calling Shaniqua the bad news weather event because she might be mass destruction. You know, nothing personal, Shaniqua, but why did you have to kill everyone off? No.
So who do we have next to Shaniqua?
Who's next? Did Shaniqua kill everything that was living?
So Shaniqua came along and killed about 60% of everything, and she
That's not
really,
too bad.
really
60%.
She really hammered the trilobites and the shellfish. She really did not like those
you
guys.
hammered the trilobites and shellfish. And so, sorry, did the mammal-looking cute reptile, did that come after Shaniqua?
That's right,
Okay,
after
sorry,
Shaniqua.
so
So
we
who
had
do
that-
we have next to Shaniqua?
And what's your name? Quill. And now, Quill, you're also a bit of a bad weather dude. You're also a bit of an extinction event. So how much of life on Earth did Quill knock off?
Quill managed to knock off about 60 or 70% as well. But he did it in a series of extinctions. So it wasn't just one event. It was lots and lots and lots of events back to back.
You were much more subtle, Quill. Just,
that's right.
just really picking at that scab. Yeah.
And Quill almost took out all of the vertebrates. So Quill almost, if it wasn't for Quill, we'd almost not have existed at this point. Yeah.
And then our next event of mass extinction?
Yep. So who's next?
What? Charlotte is next.
All right. Charlotte is the queen of extinctions. So
She looks so mild.
she represents the worst mass extinction event on the entirety of the Earth. She killed off almost everything on the oceans, on land,
Charlotte.
Only about 4% of organisms survived Charlotte's extinction event. One of the things that Charlotte did though is she almost killed off all of those cute little reptile things. And once all those cute little reptiles things were gone, the next thing there we go. That's what happened.
We're a bit excited here, Julian, so we just need you to repeat that last bit, sorry.
So Charlotte killed off almost all of those cute little reptiles things that we saw. And once all those cute little reptile things were gone, the organism that came to dominate the world, dinosaurs. We finally got to dinosaurs.
Okay, and then we all know what happened with dinosaurs.
Well, yeah, so after Charlotte, who do we have?
Who's after Charlotte? Oscar?
Oscar, you did pretty well, not as good as Charlotte, but you killed off something like 75% of all organisms. And your extinction is because of volcanic eruptions. Volcanic eruptions the size of India.
75%. Not as good as Charlotte, but pretty destructive. Okay, so what's happening after Oscar's done his darndest?
So after Oscar's done his darndest, he's killed off these giant amphibians and he's killed off the last of those cute little reptile things. And this is when dinosaurs really start. This is when Tyrannosaurus Rex comes around. This is when the dinosaurs are really in their own. Okay, who's next? Who's after Oscar?
Okay, after Oscar. I think, does anyone know what happened to the dinosaurs? And what's your name? Baxter happened to the dinosaurs. Baxter happened to the dinosaurs.
Baxter's the one that killed them off, all those dinosaurs. But you know what? He didn't kill off all the dinosaurs because there are still some dinosaurs around. All he got rid of was the non-avian dinosaurs. So if you see a bird, that's actually a dinosaur that's still around today.
That does not mean you should finish your work, Baxter, and get out there and attack birds. We love our birds, so leave those dinosaurs.
But That's right. Once the
Okay,
dinosaurs
and-
became extinct,
Back to Julian, our last little bit here, yeah.
last little bit, once the dinosaurs became extinct, that's when the mammals started to arrive. And we start to get huge mammals because the mammals can now exist without the dinosaurs preying on them. And we get really enormous mammals. This is Diprotodon. Has everybody heard of Diprotodon?
Yep, we can see. Shh. Sorry, because Julian can't hear us very well. We can see the Diprotodon. It's enormous.
That's right, yeah. So this is when mammals got really, really huge. So this guy here was probably the size of a large car, like a large four-wheel drive, 2 meters high, 2,000 kilograms in weight, and it's a distant relative of the wombat. So it's a marsupial. And there's also the largest mammal that comes around is a guy called Paracatherium. It was probably about 3 elephants long and 2 elephants high. That's a huge creature.
That's
and it's
massive.
around about this time that we start to see the appearance of humans and human ancestors as well. And I'll leave my presentation there and leave it to the next speaker, Sally.
That is so great. Thank you so much, Julian. And thank you to all of our time markers, Felix, Brooke, Shaniqua, Quill, Charlotte, Oscar and Baxter, the legendary destructive forces of history. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julian. Okay, so everything that's happened so far has taken up nearly all of those 4.5 billion years, the molecules, the dinosaurs, everyone else, and now we're down to the story that we are all very interested in, the story about humans. So please welcome Dr. Sally back to tell us about human evolution.
Okay, how many of you believe that we came from monkeys? Okay, and how many of you believe that no, actually, we are humans, we have no relation to monkeys? Okay, and who believe that it's 50-50? Good. Okay, so let me start by this slide and tell you the story of how we, human, evolved. We started a little bit later. We started 6 million years ago. And we evolved from an ape-like ancestor, something similar to the first one you see over there. Can you tell me what's the difference between that person, that very early human, and monkeys? Yep. Sorry? He's taller than a monkey. What else? Yep. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. He has more hair, but monkeys has a lot of hair too. Yeah. He doesn't have a tail. What we do every day to go to school? Walk. Can monkeys walk in 2 legs? No, they can't sustain walking in 2 legs for too long. That's the bad news. They have to use their hands too. So that's the difference between us and the monkeys. What else? What do we have up there that make us human? Brain. That's a good one. So we started 6 million years ago to walk in just 2 feet. Then we go to 4 million, and we started to develop more complex brain, more brain to think. What else we developed? How can I talk to you? Language. So this is something else. With the evolution of humans, they started to talk. They started to use language. Later on, they added something else. What do you think they added? Yeah, civilization. And at the same time they developed civilization, they developed expressions. Now you can cry, right? You can have a sad face. You can have a smiley face. Older humans didn't have that. So we evolved over time. And the last thing that we could do is we do agriculture. We can plant the food that we eat. This happened around 10,000 years ago. Next slide, please. So if you look at this tree, this is our biological family tree. It's called the primate family tree. And in that tree, it tells you that our closest still living relative is... We developed all from an ape-like ancestor, and we agreed about that. It's chimpanzee. So if anyone tells you you evolved from monkeys, tell them, no, you don't know what you're talking about. We separated from monkeys 25 million years ago. Our closest relative is the chimpanzee. However, our family tree is us. Since 6 million years ago, it's only humans existing. Next slide, please. Who watched that movie? Okay. I'm going to tell you a story about us humans and early humans that used to live before us. Do you know that we all of us, started in one place, on Earth? Do you know what that place will be? Yep. Good job. So we all started in Africa, even our earlier ancestors. And we know that because we found a lot of bones and fossils that tell us that early humans were in Africa. Even our earlier ancestors were pushed out of Africa because of weather, because of the changes, and they had to migrate. And they made their way to Asia 1.5 to 2 million years ago, and they made their way to Europe around 1 million years ago. But us, what we call us modern humans, also migrated out of Africa. Next slide, please. So, 200,000 years ago, our modern humans decided, okay, it's time to explore the world. We're going to leave Africa and go around the world. And you see that they made their way to Asia, everywhere. Do you know what time they reached here in Australia? 60,000 years ago. They made their way to here 60,000 years ago. The least place they reached is the Americas. They reached there as early as 30,000 years ago. So they made their way very well, and every time they move, they evolved. So what's evolution means? You heard evolve from a lot of people, Andrew, Julian, myself. What do you think evolution means? Yeah.
When animals and living things change after a long time?
Yeah, exactly right. You said it completely right. It changes over a long time. So, next slide, please. I'll tell you a story that summarizes the evolution theory very easily. There used to be a bunch of mice that used to live in sand. What color is the sand? Tanned. So all the mice that used to live in there were tanned color, were light color, so birds can't recognize them. Then they were pushed to live up in the mountain where it has a dark soil. While the DNA is copying inside them, a typo happened. Do you know when you type something and a typo happened? A typo happened, and that changed the color from being tanned to dark color. They live in a dark soil, so birds come, they want to feed. Which of them they can see easier? Tanned. So they started feeding more in the tan and leaving the dark ones. The dark ones get more kids, more offsprings, but they are darker in color as well. So we ended up with the last slide where you hardly see any more tanned color mice, and you see a lot of dark ones. Same with humans. We used to have early humans, but they couldn't really adapt to the environment. They couldn't gain the much changes to survive. Our modern human makes the changes in the DNA to adapt to the environment to make us stronger, survive different conditions. So they are good changes, and we are lucky that our DNA can do something like this. Next slide, please. This is our humans adapting to the environment as well. So you see the people that live in the Himalaya, for example, the oxygen is very low over there, and their DNA have changed to make them adapt to the low oxygen level. People that live in the Antarctica are not as lucky as you. They don't have a lot of diet that they can eat. They are surviving on fish. Fish is very high diet of fat. So what the DNA have done is that it changed to allow them to consume a lot of fat without getting sick. And you find a lot of changes. People have darker color skin than others, and basically to adapt to the environment around them. Those changes didn't happen just yesterday. It happened over millions of years, as we saw. Next slide. Okay, so you heard Andrew talking about DNA, and I'm going to talk quickly about DNA. So basically, DNA is similar to that ladder that you just climbed. It has two sides, and it has bases that connect those two sides together, making the steps of the stairs. And this DNA is bunched together.
Got to be broken, sorry.
It's all right. It gets bunched together inside your cell, punched and punched and punched to fit inside that tiny nucleus. You know, if you got your DNA out of every nucleus of every cell inside your body and you connect it together, you know how long that would be? It will go to the sun and back 6 times. Can you imagine how long that is from just one person? That's how much DNA we have inside our body. Next slide, please. When we die, the DNA starts to get damaged, degraded, cut it into smaller pieces. And what we find inside the remains is too little, but it tells us more about their ancestral stories. It tells us about how evolution happened. That's how we know. So, for example, how many of you heard of Neanderthals? Good, great. Do you know that using the DNA, that their DNA is the oldest that existing so far from hominin species, from humans, and they are 400,000 years because they lived in Europe. Europe is a nice, cool place. Different to Australia here, where we have the sun and the humidity, and you know how it can get hot, you know? So over there, when we get the DNA from Neanderthals, we knew that they look like us.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Yeah, they look really similar. However, because they had to do a lot of hunting, we know that they were like having a choppier, more muscles. So they had more shorter bones, more choppier. And they had a little bit bigger skull than what we have, because we need the brain power more than the muscle power.
There's a Neanderthal now, dropping something on the side.
Next slide, please. Okay, and I'm going to finish with that. So me and you have our DNA is 99.9% similar. You and the person next to you is the same. And it's only that 1% different is that make us look like how we look like. Between us and chimpanzee, we have 98.8% similarity of our DNA. Between you and your dog or cat, you have nearly 80% similarity. And between you and banana, 60% similar DNA. So, imagine.
Bananas.
Don't be too much offended if somebody said to you, you're a cabbage head, because basically you share 40% with cabbage. Okay, can I ask 2 volunteers to come to stage, please? Can I get you? Yep. The girl with the green shirt. Yep. Come over here. And I need a little... Yeah, can you come, please? No, sorry, excuse me. Sorry. The boy, yep. Come over there.
That's it. Upstairs. Come. That's great. Watch out for the crocodile. Yep.
So
no, that's right. You go over to
now
Sally.
I'm going to show you that amazing molecule that's called DNA. You're going to see it by your own naked eyes.
Sally.
Come on, come over here. And we're going to extract the DNA from strawberry. And we're going to do that today with things you can find at home. So you can repeat the same experiment when you go home today. So can I ask you please to stay here and stand the other side? What's your name?
Oliver.
Oliver?
Nina.
Nina. Thank you, Oliver and Nina, for helping us to see the DNA today. Okay, I want you to start by opening the Ziploc bag. Take one strawberry. Take the green bit out. Just keep the strawberry itself.
Oh, you got it, legend.
Okay? And then close the Ziploc bag very well. Let me help you. Yeah, you got it. That's fine. Now it's going to get messy. So if you don't want your hands to get dirty, you can wear the gloves. If you're happy to get it dirty, just smash it. Yeah. So now we're going to smash the strawberry. Smash it, smash it, smash it. It's all right. So, yep. Smashed, smashed. Okay? You know why you smash the strawberry? It's to get the cells out, so we can get the DNA out of the cells. Now, at home, you would find, the dishwashing soap? Yeah? That's one of the things that are going to help us to get the DNA out. Table salt. That's the other thing that you're going to use. And a little bit of rubbing alcohol or isopropanol. You can get that from Bunnings, from a chemist warehouse, or any chemist. And we will need water, any kind of water. Okay? So can I ask you, please, to start preparing the solution where we're going to use to get the DNA out? Great. So I think you wouldn't need it. This is going to be like too much trouble. So can you please pour some of the water, like up till here?
So when you're doing this tonight at home, you just need half a cup of water out of the tap.
Yeah, that's
Oliver's
it.
showing us that.
Yep, and add 1 small tablespoon of salt. Yep, and just mix it. If you do that alone and you want to extract your own DNA at home, just put that water in your mouth, gargle it, get a lot of cheek cells from here, and spit it in the cup back, and continue the extraction, and you're going to get your own DNA.
Wow.
That's a trick for you at home. Okay, can you come and put 2 of the soap in here? So maybe tip all of it. I think that will be. Yep, tip it here. So 2 of the tablespoon soap in here. Can you mix it? Can you come and mix it, please? Yeah. No, she will mix it, all right. Okay. Yeah, okay? And now I want you to get half of it in the bag. So I have some here that we prepared earlier. So I'm going to tip some here. Okay?
Did you just say that I prepared earlier? You are so ready for your own TV show.
That's good. Okay, yep, close it. Make sure that you close the Ziploc bag very well because we don't want the strawberry all over the place, okay? And then mix it again for 1 minute. Now what we're doing is we got the DNA out of the cells, remember, when we smashed the strawberry? But DNA is tangled in a lot of stuff inside the cell. Some proteins, some other things that we don't want it. We just want the DNA. So we're mixing it with the soap and the salt to get the DNA separated from everything else. Okay? Now, I'll ask you to use this and get, oh, sorry. Now, can you tip it here? Yep. Don't be. Great job. Yep.
Like all of it?
You can, if you want to. Great. Okay. Come on, guys, just strawberry.
With detergent and salt and...
I can help you. Here you go. Okay? Great. Okay? Yeah. So now the DNA is in that water, and we want to see it. So we're going to put the alcohol to get the DNA out of everything, and we could see it. Because did alcohol and water mix together? No. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. Here's the alcohol. To tip the alcohol, what you need to do is to tilt the cup a little bit and then pour some of the alcohol. Slowly. Yep, that's it. Okay. And look, what do you see happening?
It's moving up.
No, do you see that white thing? That white cloudy thing? That's your DNA. Pull a string. Just pull it like that. That's your DNA. That's the strawberry DNA. Here we go. You see?
Oh.
You can pull it more.
Wow.
You can do the same. Just a little bit more. Yep. Yeah. More. A little bit more. Yeah, that's it. And wait for the white clouds. Can you pull it out for the camera so everyone can see it? Can you see the DNA?
How's yours going?
How's yours going? Yep. Do you see that cloud thing? That's the DNA. So what you do, yep, exactly. Yeah, here we go.
Wow. Nina and Oliver have taken DNA out of strawberries. How many people can say they've done that today? Let's give it up. Oh,
Yeah, that's a big chunk. Look at that.
That's the champion. Nina's got the award-winning champion world record DNA booger from a strawberry right there. It's huge. Are you going to be a scientist, Nina? I think you've got a natural knack for it. Yeah. You too, Oliver. You both did really well. Yay. Woo!
Thank you. You can keep it. It's all right. Yeah, go ahead. Oliver, do you want to take yours? Thank you, everyone.
How great was that? Dr. Sally giving you some homework where you can extract DNA from fruit, or you can extract your own DNA from your mouth with a bit of saltwater detergent and a bit of alcohol from the chemist or the hardware. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we've now covered all of the evolution of life on Earth in 55 minutes. It's a record. We've done extremely well. Will you please put your hands together again to thank Professor Andrew, Associate Professor Julian, and Dr. Sally. Woo! And say goodbye to our friends online. Bye now. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy World Science Festival.